All right, in this video, we are going to learn a little bit more about AutoCAD by recreating the drawing that we drafted by hand in AutoCAD. So the first thing we're going to do is load up the template, the JPT template that we created in class. You can find that on Canvas if you're in my class. I'll also just provide a link in the description if you want to. If for whatever reason you're following this and you're not in my class, you can, but you want to learn AutoCAD, which you're free to do, of course, I'll provide a link for you to do that. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. And when we open it up, of course, it's going to look like there's nothing here because remember, this is just a template. We don't want anything written and drawn here. What the template does is in the letter tab, there's a letter sized block for placing our drawings with a very simple title block here. And there's a legal sized one as well with a legal sized block template with a similarly simple title block. There we go. I choked those words out eventually. Okay, so this is going to start very simply with the line tool, which remember is L, typing L on my keyboard and then pressing enter, and then specifying that I want to start this on the origin, which is 0, 0, enter. After I do that, I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to move it so that it is horizontal to the origin. And it's going to snap on this green dotted line here, just like this. With it snapped on the green dotted line, I'm going to make this how long it should be, which is 4 inches. And press enter. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can focus on this drawing. I'm going to go straight up from where this line is starting. So I'm going to pull my mouse straight up and get the green dotted line that's shooting upwards and go 0.75. Enter. And now all I'm doing here is just following. So my first line was that way with origin, right? Which was 0, 0, 0, enter. And then I pulled my mouse in that direction and went 4 inches that way. And then I pulled my mouse in that direction and then went 0.75 that way. So now I'm going to pull my mouse this way to the left, getting the green line, always on the green line. Remember that. That's how you get nice straight lines. Do 1.5, enter. Straight up, 1, enter. All I'm doing is following the dimensions that are on my screen to the right here. And now what I'm going to do, instead of going to the right 1.5 again, I can draw more accurately if I hold my mouse here so that I get the green square and pull my mouse along the green dotted line until my line snaps horizontally. And I can just click there, just like that. I'm going to pull my mouse up and do 0.75 again. I'm going to do that same technique I just did, except I'm going to get the green square here and move my mouse slowly up this green line until my line is horizontal. And click there. Pull my mouse down, click on the origin to finish that shape, and press the escape key to close the line tool. So now I can either do the right side view or the top view. I'll do the top view now. That's just going to be a simple rectangle. So that's REC, enter. I'm going to hold my mouse here at the top of the part so I get the green square. Pull my mouse up so I get a green dotted line. And now I want the gap between the front view and the top view to be 4 inches. Remember, 4 inches, because on paper, the gap was 2 inches, but everything was scaled down by 1/2. So if I make it 4 and I scale this down later by half, the 4 becomes 2, the 2-inch gap that we had before. So I'm going to do that now. I'm holding my mouse along this green line. I'm going to press 4, enter, so that this rectangle starts 4 inches above the front view. And now I'm going to set the dimensions of this rectangle, which is 4 inches wide. So I'm going to type 4, press tab by 1.5, 1.5, and press enter. And that is a 4 by 1.5 rectangle. I'm going to use the line tool, which is L enter. Put my mouse here. I'm not clicking because I don't want to draw a line here, but I do want to hover my mouse up the green line until it hits the bottom of this piece. And now I'm going to click my line. That's like putting my pencil down in real life. So now I put my pencil down and now I'm dragging up, drawing with my pencil upwards. So when I click on this line and then press escape to close the line tool, I get this line. I get this line perfectly lined up with that line. Exactly what I want. I do want this to be a hidden line, but I'm going to do that later. I'm going to come back to that. For now, what I'm going to do is do the rectangle, REC, enter, hold my mouse here, pull 4 inches to the right, 4, enter, and do another rectangle here. That's going to be 1.5, tab, and then 2.5 tall, enter. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before, L, enter. I need those 2 lines, and they are just extensions from here. So 1 line, click, click, escape, L, enter, dragging from here, clicking when I hit the piece, click, click, escape. Now these are not hidden lines because we would see these lines. From the right side view, we would see these lines, right? But from the top, we wouldn't see this line. So that's why it's got to be hidden. So I'm going to select this line like that. Now it's blue. And right up here in the properties window, in the properties section, I should say, in the properties section, I can switch this to hidden to. Now, if you're on a laptop, your screen, your AutoCAD might be a little smaller. So let me make this a little smaller to show you what you might see. So if you have a smaller screen, like you're on a laptop, your properties tab might look like this. It might look like a button on the ribbon. No worries. This is exactly the same, nothing different, other than you're going to have to just click on this little button or hover your mouse over it. And we get the same 3 little drop downs that say by layer, by layer, by layer. The last one, the bottom one, is the one that has the hidden to line style in it. So click on hidden to, click the escape key to stop selecting that line. I'm going to snap my window back before moving on. And there we go. So that's pretty simple. The orthographic views are fairly simple because they're just straight, right? And for this piece anyway, they're just simple rectangular shapes, right? The isometric view is a little harder, but not too bad. If you go down to the bottom of AutoCAD, you should see this little sort of pizza pie. It's like a circle with 2 lines coming out of it. We don't want to turn that off. Don't click that. Keep it blue. But if you see the little arrow next to it, what this is are those green lines, right? They're the tracking lines. And your tracking lines may only have shown up at 90, 180, 270, 360, right? Meaning just straight up, straight down, left, right. But we could make those lines show up much more often, right? On more angles. And that's what we want to do. We want them to show up on the 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, so on. And the reason why is because our isometric angles are 30, 60, and 90, which is why we have the 30, 60, 90 triangle when we were drafting by hand. So with that turned on, with the green check by 30, 60, 90, I'm going to go ahead and use the line tool, L, enter, and get this started. So I want to line my isometric view up with the corner of this piece and the corner of this piece. So I want to be right at that intersection. And I can do that by hovering my mouse on that corner and pulling upwards without clicking, and putting my mouse on this corner and pulling to the right without clicking. And as soon as my mouse meets the intersection of those two, I get 2 green lines. showing that I'm at that intersection. And that's where I want to click, because that's the intersection of those two lines. Now, I'm going to snap at 30 degrees in this direction. So you should have your mouse so that you get a green line going that way, and you see 30 degrees in that box, because that's going to be the bottom of our isometric view. So I'm pulling my mouse in that direction, and the bottom of our piece is 4 inches long. So I'm going to do 4, enter. Pull my mouse straight up. So now we're just doing the front view. So the same thing as how we started this video, 4 inches to the right, and now 0.75 up. And now I'm pulling my mouse so that I get the green line, and I see 150 degrees, because that's going to be parallel with this line. These two lines should be perfectly parallel so that this isometric view looks right. Okay. Now I'm going to go 1.5 in this direction, straight up 1 inch, enter, back at 30 degrees again, 1.5, straight up 0.75, right? And those lines, you should double check. These lines should be perfectly lined up with each other. This 0.75 and this 0.75. And this line should be perfectly parallel with this line, and this, and as well as this. These lines should all be parallel with each other. And now this line that we're about to draw should also be parallel with all of those lines. Parallel, 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 parallel. Because we're going to drag this at 150 so that we have our green line going in that direction. And because this is the top of our piece, this is going to be the same length as the bottom, which is 4 inches. 4, enter. So from here, I can just click right back at where I started. And there I have my front view, but at an isometric angle. So now to make this 3D, I'm going to press L, enter. And I'm just going to go at each corner here, click to make a line, and I'm going to pull in this direction. So it's going to be 30 degrees now, but this way, 30 degrees towards the top of my screen. And you'll notice that this is a proper line to make, because notice how that creates a perfectly perpendicular or 90-degree angle from the top of our piece here. And it also creates a perfectly perpendicular or 90-degree angle right there as well. And that's what makes this look like it's 3D, even though it's drawn in a two-dimensional way. So I'm pulling this way, and that's going to be 1.5, because the piece is 1.5 inches deep. So 1.5. And now I'm going to press escape, because what I want is I want to just give each corner a line like that. So I'm going to do that as well here, and there, and there, and there. All of these 1.5 inches. Well, not the one down here, but you'll see why. So L, enter, click, 30 degrees, 1.5, enter. 30 degrees, 1.5, enter. All right, now this one, like I said, this one might not be 1.5. I don't remember exactly how long it is. It just needs to go until it hits the top. All right, and it's not 1.5. See, it's actually 1 if you're looking at the highlighted blue number, but it doesn't really matter. All it matters is that it's touching this and no more. Click, escape. Okay. Continue on. Clicking here, 30 degrees, 1.5, and one more. Clicking here, 30 degrees, 1.5. Now I can use the line tool to connect this and this, and then that all the way back that way. That will finish the isometric view. So click here and there, escape, here, here, and here. Oh, one more, sorry. All the way down here, I need to click here and now go 150 degrees. Again, not 1.5, but just all the way back until we touch the piece and then click and escape to get out of the line tool. And now I have my 4 views, my top view, my front view, my top view, my right side view, and my isometric view. With those 4 views, I can now put this on the piece of paper, which is what this is done, which this person did here on the right. So I'm going to click on the letter tab at the bottom of AutoCAD to put this on a letter size sheet of paper. This piece isn't so big that it needs to be on legal. So I'm going to go to letter. And to get this on here, I'm going to use a tool called viewports, because what viewports does is it creates a portal from this piece of paper over to the model tab to sort of, you can think of it like a portal or like a window over to that part of the program. So that's VIEWPORTS, enter. That's going to bring up this box. Don't worry about any of these settings except to get this single right here. That's all we want, is that single. Okay. With single selected, I can click OK. And now it's asking me to make a first corner and a second corner, because the viewport is just, it's a box, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on this corner because I want this inside of the frame. That's the whole reason why we drew it. I'm going to click on this corner. So I'm clicking on the 2 opposite corners of this. I could have also clicked on this corner, and this corner would have done the same thing. Doesn't really matter as long as we have 2 opposite corners. Now this piece is too big on here. It's not 1/2 scale. So we're going to fix that in a moment. The first thing I'm going to do is notice how when I pan or when I zoom, I'm zooming in and panning the paper. But what I want to do is be able to zoom in and pan the model, the viewport. So I'm going to double click inside of here, click, click. And now I can, when I zoom and when I pan, I'm changing the model, not the paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that this is set to 1/2 scale. So that's over here. This little decimal is the scale of the viewport. So if I click on that number and go to 1/2, it's now set to 1/2 scale. And be very careful that you don't zoom using your mouse wheel here, because what I want you to do is to pan this piece, which, remember, the panning tool is when you click the middle mouse button in. We're going to pan this down and to the left without zooming. If you accidentally zoom right here, I'm going to like accidentally use my scroll wheel there. Now I messed it up. I zoomed out a little bit. If that happens to you, don't worry. Just go back to that number, change it back to 1/2. And you're going to have to pan that back. All right. You need to have this here because we need to be able to click on that corner here in a second. So that's why it's got to be down there like that. So now what I'm going to do is use a new tool. And this one is called Align Space. And what Align Space is going to allow us to do is to line up a part in model space with something in the paper space. So this rectangular, this isometric view here exists in model space, but these little lines that we made on the frame exist in paper space, and they are what help us line everything up. So that's why we need that tool called Align Space. Align Space. Enter. It's going to ask us for the first point in model space that we want to select, which I said was this corner here. I'm going to click that. It asks for a second point in model space. We don't want one. So see how it says or return for none? Well, return is just a fancy word for the enter key. So I'm just going to press enter for no second space. Now it asks for an alignment point in paper space. Well, where we want that corner is at the intersection of this line here and this line. So just like we did before, I'm going to put my mouse on this line here at the top and move my mouse slowly down so I get the green dotted line. Then I'm going to move my mouse to this line here on the right and pull my mouse left to get the green dotted line. And I'm pulling my mouse along that green dotted line until I get both green dotted lines. You see here, I've got this one and I've got this one. And on my mouse is a green X right there in the center. That's where I'm going to click to set that piece there. Now, it's not going to move there automatically. It asks me to pick a viewport because you can make multiple viewports. Now, on this paper, we only have one. So all we have to do is press enter to continue. We don't have to select a viewport. We're already in the one and only one that we have. So I'm going to press enter. And now it moves perfectly to the right spot. Now, I don't want this to move at all. So I'm going to press the padlock here at the bottom to lock that into place. I'm going to select this little padlock right there so nothing moves. Select the padlock. And now I'm going to double click in the gray area here. Click, click to go back into the paper space. Right? So now when I zoom and I pan, I am not moving the model whatsoever. So now all we need to do is change our name in the title block and put some dimensions in. So I'm going to click the dimension tool here. Click the dimension tool, and I'm going to start putting in dimensions. Now there's two ways to put dimensions in. I can click on a line, pull my mouse down, and click again to place that dimension right where I want it. But another thing I can do, because look, when we drew this as a rectangle. So this line is a line because it has two endpoints. But this line here, from here to here, does not have two endpoints there because it goes all the way to the end. So instead, what I'm going to have to do to get that 1.5 that's right there, I'm going to have to move my mouse to the end point that's right there. See the green square? And click on that. And now notice how my mouse is kind of like a tape measure. The further I move it out, the bigger the number gets. And the closer I move it in, the smaller the number gets. Well, what AutoCAD is asking is basically, what's the second point I want to select? Well, that's going to be the end of this line here. I'm going to click. And now I can move my mouse down to go ahead and place that. So now I've got my 1.5 there. My 4 there. Got my 2.5 here. Actually, I'm going to want that in a slightly different spot. So I'm not going to do the dimensions the way that they are on the right, because I think they're a little more clear the way you're going to watch me make them. So watch me as I go ahead and get these in. That's not 1 1/4, so I'm going to have to get that out of there. Why does that say 1 1/4? I must have messed something up here because that is not supposed to be 1 1/4. I know why it's 1 1/4. Delete. There we go. Okay. I'm going to dimension a couple more things here before I fix that. So 3/4 there. I've got 1 in here. Click, click, click. What else do I need to do? 1/2 for this bottom part. Yeah, this whole right side view is a little messed up. And I think I know why. All right. So let's go ahead and dimension the top. Click, click. 1 1/2. Actually, I want that down at the bottom. Click, click. 1 1/2. 3/4. I have 1. Oh, why is that line like that? That's ugly. Let's try to fix that. Click, click, There we go. 1. And then the overall height. That was 3/4. So this is going to be click. Still doesn't want to be right. Come on. There to there, 2.5. There we go. So what I was saying before was the dimensions that I'm putting on here are a little different than what you see on the right. Let me just turn the grid off really quick. There we go. Now it just makes it a little easier to see. So the numbers on where mine are not exactly the same as where the numbers are on the paper and how we did it when we were drawing this piece in real life. And the reason why they're a little different is because if we can, and we can in this instance, put dimensions so that they're pointing in the direction of another view, we want to do that. So notice that this 4 is not just shooting up off the top of the piece, but I've pulled the extension lines down towards the front view. That makes it clearer that this line is 4, this line is 4, this line is 4, and this line is 4. All of those are 4, right? Same thing here. This makes it clear that this 3/4 going in this direction makes it clear that that's 3/4, that's 3/4, that's 3/4, right? So we want to do that whenever we can. So the way that this was done was, it's not completely incorrect, but it's much clearer the way that we have it here. So we're going to make sure that that's how we do it. All right. So all that's left now before we print this as a PDF is we're going to go ahead and double click on this name block here. So I'm holding my mouse over this title block so that it highlights. See that? When I put my mouse over the word name, the whole thing highlights up. I'm going to want to do that and double click. Now the attribute editor comes up. I'm going to replace name with my last name. I'm going to put after the number sign in part number, I'm going to put part number 19. And then after scale, I want 1:2 for 1.5. Now, if you do that and you click OK, and your title block here is going off the screen like mine is, right? There's something you can change so that doesn't happen. Now, mine did that because I had an extra space. But what you can do is while you're in this editor, if you go to text options and change the height to something a little smaller, so like instead of 0.2, you do 0.18. Notice how when I click attribute, this gets smaller. Now, mine was okay at 0.2, so I'm just going to leave it at 0.2 and be happy with the way that is. This is now ready for printing. So we're going to go ahead and print this as a PDF. So I'm going to go ahead. All I have to do here is just do Control P and click this last option here. Continue to plot a single sheet. We just want to print this one. There's nothing even on the other sheet. Remember that we didn't do anything with the legal one. It's empty. So no reason to print that. Just the bottom one, plot a single sheet. Don't worry about any of these options. They are perfectly set to what we want. We're going to print this as a PDF. So we're just going to click OK. It's going to ask you to save it somewhere. So I'm on my desktop, so that's fine. Save it there. No worries. And then you can just call this your last name. So GROSS for me. And then the number, which was the part number, which was 19. So gross 19, save. And once that's done, you'll be able to submit that to Canvas. So see there, mine's on the desktop. If I open it up to just take a look at it, I can spin this around so that it looks correctly. Whoops. There we go. And it's beautiful. Just like we did it in class, except nice and crisp because the computer did it, not us. So that's ready to go. And you can submit that to Canvas whenever you're ready. I hope that this helped you learn a little bit more about AutoCAD. I will make sure to have plenty of videos for you on this stuff that we do in class, so that you're able to follow along. If you miss a day or you just need to watch me do something again at your own pace, remember you can rewind and turn the closed captioning on if my voice is unclear, and that should help you. So I'll see you in the next video. I hope this one helped.